Hey there, survivors, how's it going? I'm your host Douglas here at Drawn Boy Productions, bringing you another Friday the 13th related video. I know many of you know me from the Screaming Ghostface related content, but this all started with a Jason Voorhees obsession. And I used to have some pretty cool Jason pieces, but never went after anything like movie mold or anything like that until in the past, I would say year and a half or so, I've started picking up some really cool, some much more rare than others, movie mold Jason Voorhees pieces for the collection. Ultimately, I would like to get at least one copy of everything that's out there movie mold wise, and this has been one of the things at the top of my list for a very long time. No need to waste any time since you all already know what it is by the title and thumbnail. Here we have a Bloody Ending 2, Friday the 13th, Part 4, Jason Voorhees bust. This is, in my opinion, one of the coolest replicas to ever happen in Friday the 13th collector history, and is certainly a piece of Friday the 13th history. Where do I even start with this thing? There is so much to learn about it. And I want to tell you guys a bit more about the backstory on this so that you guys can really appreciate some of the work that goes into bringing us really cool replicas like this. In some cases, it's as easy as being able to have access to the original mold, or possibly a master of the mask, maybe even an original piece that can be foam filled and then recast. Sometimes a lot of work goes into it, because the prop is degraded, there's many other issues, whatever the situation may be. This is one that took a lot of work. And the main person in the community to thank for these existing is Marshall Bean, also known as Ryan Bean. I'm sure many of you who have been active in the Friday the 13th groups for years, or in the collecting pages, the prop community, whatever it may be, you probably already know the name, and you probably already know what this is. In Friday the 13th Part 4, Jason was portrayed by actor and stuntman Ted White, and there were two different versions of Jason's head that were worn by Ted. There was a stunt mask, which they would typically cut the face out of so it could be worn as a cowl, thus not requiring hours and hours and hours of makeup. And then there was also the makeup application version, which is pretty much what you see when Jason is unmasked. That version is a full set of makeup appliances put directly on Ted's face, whereas the stunt mask is of course pretty much just one piece. Most of this bust lineage comes directly from that stunt mask, however, this does have a few modifications to it. As I mentioned, this is the Bloody Ending 2. There was a Bloody Ending 1. The original Bloody Ending was much smaller as it was a recast and true to recast size with shrinkage, whereas these are scaled to be accurate to the original prop. A good majority of this sculpture is the original sculpture lineage to the film. However, there were some areas that had to be retooled and reinforced by Ryan before he went ahead and molded this thing. He also had to add some things, like the teeth were all originally sculpted. The eye as well was originally completely cut out, so what he did was make a mold of the eye of another Part 4 movie mold piece, which is the Mangler bust, which was put out by Tom Savini back in the day. That bust features a closed eye Jason, and that closed eye is actually Ted White's closed eye as they sculpted the makeup. So he then made a clay press of that eye and had to graft that into place, making sure that everything fit together perfectly, and it does. This one in particular, however, is even more modified than one of the regular Bloody Ending 2s. Because if I haven't mentioned it already, the paint and finish work here was not done by Ryan or Marshall Bean. These were only sold as blanks, and I would also like to note for a very affordable price. These resin busts, unpainted, were only $250, which is super reasonable for anything movie mold, especially a resin bust and something this freaking cool. The modifications and all the finishing work done on this one were done by another artist named Stéphane Boisever. I hope I said your name right. I know you said it's very French. I apologize if I said it wrong, but this dude absolutely killed this thing. I mean, look at the detail on the paint. I don't know how well this shot will pick it up, but there's plenty of vein work, just all sorts of great discoloration in all the right areas. The almost like blushing effects on the face look really good. The epoxy gloss on the lips and teeth is pretty much perfect. The eyes themselves are fake, like glass eyes, so they look really nice. And as I mentioned, the typical Bloody Ending 2s will have a closed eye on this side. However, he decided to trim this one out use just a little bit of epoxy sculpt to kind of sculpt an eyelid there, and then add in an actual eye. And personally, I kind of like this look more. The other one looks more like a movie makeup piece. It has that cool history to it, whereas this to me just looks like Jason's head. And I mean, how could it not? It's the original sculpture. The paintwork and finishing on this is fantastic. I love that it's even got the shirt on it. Before we take a look any further at this thing, I just want to go ahead and say a quick thank you to Stefan for selling me this piece. And also, if you guys want to check out his paintwork or any of his other work, go check it out on the page listed on screen now. And of course, I have to thank Marshall Bean for actually going out of his way to create these, to put them out there for fans. They were not a limited product when they were out there. At this point, though, he is no longer selling them. He has no intentions to make any more of them. So if you're interested in one of these, like I was, you're gonna have to play the secondhand market. But in my opinion, for something this cool, totally worth it. For the inner child in me who loved the Jason Voorhees movie so much, I feel pretty much complete at this point. The Part 7 makeup and the Part 4 makeup are two of my favorites, and to have both of these movie mold finished and painted the way that they are is just a dream come true. And I'll spin him around here to show you that he does have a little bit of hair. Now, Jason in Part 4 does not have very much hair, and it's almost completely unnoticeable, but I guess in a few scenes, if you pay close attention, you'll see a few strands of scraggly hair. I also don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but of course I want to give proper kudos in case I haven't. Tom Savini was involved with Part 4 Jason. However, this Jason was sculpted by James Cagle, who is another very, very well-known sculptor who has worked in tons of film, television, and more. And Cagle's sculpting work has been one of my favorites for a long time, but this makeup overall just has to be one of my favorites. It's just so freaking cool. All right, at this point, guys, I really don't know what else to say about this piece other than the fact that I am just still over the moon with it. This and that Part 7 have to be probably my two favorite Jason pieces in the collection at the moment. And I do have one other item. This was a very cool, very special gift from a local friend named Rafe. So Rafe, if you're watching this, huge thank you for this. Here we have a bottle of original Camp Crystal Lake spring water. This says Angry Mother Bottling Company, 100% Crystal Lake water, not for consumption, bottled only on Friday the 13th, where the legend was born. So I guess this is actual water out of the original lake. It's just a small bottle of it. And this is something that you can purchase yourself if you're interested in getting a small bottle of Camp Crystal Lake water for yourself or for someone else. And if you're curious how much that runs you, I think it was right around $17. I've got a lot of zany stuff in the collection, but personally I haven't went out of my way to collect anything location-wise, like dirt, gravel, any kind of stuff like that, any remnants. But I gotta say, this is a pretty cool piece, and I really appreciate it as a gift. And with that being said, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. All that's left is to give you guys some nice close-ups of this beautiful, beautiful mama's boy. And yeah, with that being said, I love you all. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Have some really, really cool videos on the horizon, and see you next time.